My name was Tariq. I was a Muslim attorney, a figure of respect, known for my discipline and unwavering commitment to my faith. My days were filled with legal battles, my nights steeped in prayers. But within me, a storm brewed, an unsettling emptiness that pulsed beneath the surface, whispering doubts I couldn't voice. In the heart of New York's vibrant, multicultural landscape, I wore a mask of certainty, yet my soul sought something more. Then came that fateful night, a moment of fiery collision that would alter my existence. As I was preparing for a case, reality fractured. I slipped into unconsciousness, entering a realm where time ceased to exist, a judicial cosmos where darkness reigned. There, I encountered a figure more radiant than the sun. It was Jesus, calling my name, dismantling everything I thought I knew. In his presence, I witnessed the true battle between deception and light, understanding how the very structures I revered confined my spirit. Awakening from that coma, I returned to a world that felt foreign, bearing the heavy chains of betrayal and rejection. My family distanced themselves, branding me a heretic for embracing a truth I could no longer ignore. What followed, however, was a clandestine quest for knowledge. As I furtively explored the pages of the Bible, listening to testimonies that echoed my own, peace stirred within me like a long-dormant flame, igniting courage despite the shadows of isolation looming overhead. Now I feel a calling, a responsibility to share a revelation that transcends my personal struggle. This story is not just mine. It's part of a larger awakening sweeping across nations, igniting hearts that once settled for the mundane. What if the truth could liberate souls tethered to fear? What if this very moment was divine intervention, urging you to seek your own light? Join me as I unravel the layers of my journey. Let's embark on this path together, a path filled with hope and transformation. But first, I want to hear from you. Where are you tuning in from? And what time does your clock read? Your voice matters as we connect across this vast landscape of truth. And if you too are yearning for the light of Jesus, subscribe to Truth from Beyond. Don't miss out on the next revelations that could change everything for you. In the vibrant, multicultural neighborhood of New York City where I live and work as an attorney, the atmosphere is rich with the sounds and sights of countless cultures. I've always been proud of my Muslim heritage, working diligently to support my community through legal advocacy. Yet, despite this deep sense of devotion, I often felt an undercurrent of dissatisfaction within myself. My days were filled with the hustle of courtrooms and legal paperwork, yet a nagging feeling persisted. The kind that whispered subtly, yet powerfully, urging me to seek something more than what I had been taught. One day, in the midst of preparing for a critical case, I was struck by a sudden wave of fatigue. The usually bustling office felt stifling, and I momentarily closed my eyes to gather my thoughts. It was at that moment I slipped into a state of deep transcendence. I was no longer in my office. Instead, I found myself surrounded by an expansive void, dark and empty. Panic began to swell within me as I drifted further into this nothingness, but then a brilliant light pierced through, illuminating the space around me. In that radiant glow stood Jesus, looking more compassionate and powerful than I had ever imagined. As he approached, a sense of calm enveloped me, washing away my fears. Jesus began to speak, revealing profound truths that shook the foundation of everything I had believed. He revealed the hidden agendas that shaped our societies, the manipulation by the elite that perpetuates division and fear, Through him, I witnessed the spiritual war that rages not only within individuals but also across the globe, affecting politics, faith, and collective understanding. I was shown how deception runs deep, obscuring the truth that could unite us all if only we dared to confront it. This revelation ignited within me an overwhelming sense of purpose. I understood that my life as an attorney could be a platform for change, a way to fight against the forces that sought to maintain control over our perceptions. The fear of backlash and judgment from my community became secondary to the calling I felt to share these truths. I realized that my internal struggles mirrored the larger conflicts faced by so many, and it was time to awaken, not just myself, but those around me who were also searching for answers. When I finally returned to my physical surroundings, the weight of my revelation lingered. I knew I couldn't keep silent about what I had experienced. The fear of losing my standing in my community now seemed insignificant compared to the fire burning within me to advocate for truth and openness. I began to seek out others who might be receptive to these insights, gathering in secret to discuss the realities that Jesus had shown me. The journey ahead would not be easy, but feeling Jesus' presence gave me the strength to face the challenges that lay ahead in this spiritual war, ready to engage in the battle for truth and awakening. As a 30-year-old Muslim lawyer in New York, I've been regarded as a respected figure within my community. My peers often looked to me for guidance, and I prided myself on my discipline and dedication to my profession. But despite my successes, there was an emotional void lingering beneath the surface. Each day, as I navigated the intricacies of the legal system, I felt a growing contradiction between my strict religious obedience and an unsettling disenchantment with my spiritual life. The teachings I had respected my whole life began to feel like chains rather than a source of strength. It was during one of those long nights of preparation for an important case that everything changed. As I worked late into the evening, poring over legal documents, the weight of fatigue settled heavily on my chest. My mind drifted, wandering through the thoughts that had haunted me for some time. I began to question the purpose of my work and the very faith that should have brought me comfort. How could I be a champion for justice if I felt so disconnected from the essence of my own spirituality? The more I pondered, the deeper the void grew. I needed answers, something beyond the rituals I had come to rely upon. And then, within a heartbeat, the room shifted. I collapsed onto the floor, enveloped in a suffocating darkness. In that void, time and space lost their meaning. I felt I was no longer bound by physicality. Suddenly, a radiant light pierced through the darkness, drawing me toward it. As I approached, I recognized the figure standing before me. It was Jesus. His presence brought warmth, a profound sense of understanding, and an unconditional love that enveloped me. As he called my name, all my doubt washed away, replaced with a clarity that I had long sought. Jesus began to speak, illuminating truths that had been hidden from me. He revealed the deception crafted by the elite, how the manipulation of fear and division was used to control societies and keep individuals in darkness. I watched as the fabric of our modern world unraveled before me. The wars, the division, the strife, all interconnected by a web of lies. It was a revelation that pierced through the facade of peace I had hoped existed in our community. I understood then that I was caught in a spiritual war, one that demanded not just acknowledgement but action. When I awoke, the reality of my life felt drastically altered. This encounter ignited a fire within me, compelling me to share my experience and the revelations I had received. I knew I could no longer remain silent about what I had learned. The truths illuminated by Jesus showed me that my disenchantment was not just personal, but part of a larger awakening that others desperately needed. Yet, the fear of reprisal from my community loomed over me like an ominous cloud. I was determined to face this fear, to let my awakening inspire others to break free from the chains of deception that held so many captive. The journey was just beginning, and I was ready to embrace whatever challenges lay ahead in this spiritual battle for truth. As a Muslim attorney in New York, I lived a life steeped in expectations and responsibilities. My days were consumed with the complexities of law, representing clients and upholding justice. Yet, beneath the surface of my professional success, a nagging emptiness began to emerge. Each night, as I knelt in prayer, reciting the familiar verses, I felt a disconnection from the spiritual essence I once cherished. The weight of doubt pressed heavily on my heart. I found myself questioning the effectiveness of my faith, wondering if I was merely going through the motions without truly connecting with my beliefs. Every moment of introspection was accompanied by a sense of fear and isolation. I felt unable to voice my doubts openly, as if admitting my struggles would undermine my loyalty to my faith and my community. The echoes of those around me who celebrated unwavering belief filled the air with expectations that intensified my internal conflict. What I once saw as steadfast devotion began to feel like a heavy shroud, suffocating the very essence of my spiritual journey. Disturbing dreams began to manifest, revealing my growing disconnect. In these dreams, I found myself lost in a fog, grasping for something indescribable, a sense of truth just out of reach. In those moments of darkness, I started to suspect that the religion I had devoted my life to might be more of a tool for control than a genuine pathway to spiritual enlightenment. The thought felt dangerous, a hidden agenda lurking beneath the practices that shaped my daily life. As I navigated through this internal chaos, a deep yearning emerged, urging me to seek answers beyond the confines of tradition. The desire to uncover the truth became a fire within me, one that refused to be extinguished. Then came the pivotal moment that changed everything. While preparing for an important case, engulfed in my thoughts of doubt, I briefly closed my eyes to gather myself. It was in that moment of silence that the ground beneath me seemed to vanish, and I found myself in a surreal haze, a void that was both frightening and liberating. Suddenly, a radiant light enveloped me, and in that light stood Jesus, an embodiment of love and understanding. His presence filled me with an overwhelming peace that contrasted sharply with the turmoil I had been experiencing. As he spoke, revelations unfolded before me with startling clarity. Jesus revealed the deceptions that permeated the world, the manipulation by the elite that sought to leverage fear and division among us. I witnessed the spiritual war in which we were all unwitting participants, oblivious to the hidden agendas shaping our lives. Each word resonated deeply within my soul, awakening truths I had long suppressed. The realization that I had the power to challenge these deceptions ignited a sense of purpose I had never known. I understood that this awakening wasn't just for me. It was a call to share this revelation, to guide others toward uncensored truth, even if it meant risking everything I had once held dear. The day of the accident started like any other. I was Tariq, a dedicated attorney in New York, known for my meticulous attention to detail and commitment to my clients. My life revolved around late nights at the office and the pursuit of justice within the legal system. However, beneath the surface, I felt a growing emptiness, a gnawing sense that something significant was missing. It was a quiet discontent that I often buried beneath the pressures of my work. I never imagined that the turning point would come in such a sudden and jarring manner. That fateful evening, the city buzzed around me as I drove home, my mind preoccupied with the day's cases and how I could better serve my clients. I didn't see the oncoming car until it was too late. The impact was catastrophic, a shockwave of metal and flesh that left my body crumpled and limp. As darkness swallowed me, I slipped into a coma, a state of suspended reality that would become the catalyst for my awakening. In that surreal existence, I found myself in what felt like a courtroom, but it was darker, laden with a heaviness that almost felt tangible. Shadows danced around me, flickering like memories on the edge of consciousness. Suddenly, I was struck by the radiant light of Jesus, who stood before me, warm and compassionate. He called my name with a voice that transcended the limitations of language, filling me with understanding and clarity I hadn't known before. In that moment, I realized I was not just a figure in a trial. I was a participant in a much larger spiritual war. Jesus began to unveil profound truths, illuminating the hidden agendas that drive our societies, the elite powers that manipulate faith and politics, creating division and discontent. I saw the ways in which deception permeates our daily lives, obscuring the path to genuine spiritual awakening. The realization struck me hard. Many of us are caught in cycles of compliance, believing that tradition and blind faith hold the keys to our salvation. He explained how the struggles we face are not merely political or social, but profoundly spiritual, urging us to awaken to the truth that lies beyond the confines of societal expectations. As we delved deeper into this understanding, I felt a growing urgency within me. The revelations were not just for my edification, they demanded action. I recognized that my experience was calling me to bear witness, to share these insights with others who, like me, felt the burdens of doubt and disillusionment weighing them down. As I prepared to return to my physical form, I was filled with a sense of purpose stronger than I had ever known. I needed to confront these realities, to step out from the shadows of my previous life and help others navigate their own journeys of awakening, even if it meant risking everything I once stood for. When I awoke after my encounter with Jesus, a sense of profound loss washed over me. I had expected clarity and purpose, but instead, I was met with confusion and fear. My name is Tariq, a 30-year-old Muslim attorney who had dedicated his life to the law and the teachings of Islam. I had always been respected in my community, but now I felt like a pariah. Upon sharing my experience, I was labeled a heretic by those I had once revered. My family distanced themselves, their disappointment palpable, and I found myself grappling with guilt and isolation that seemed to engulf me. The once familiar surroundings of my life became suffocating. I felt the weight of judgment and rejection from my community, leaving me feeling abandoned and alone. The guilt of choosing a path that diverged from my upbringing created a turbulent conflict within me. How could I face my parents, my friends, after they had placed their trust in me? The sense of spiritual isolation was unsettling, yet deep down, I couldn't shake the stirring in my heart, a calling to explore the truths about Jesus and Christianity that had been awakened in me. In the shadows of my solitude, I began to delve into the Bible. Each page I turned liberated me bit by bit, revealing insights that resonated with my soul. It was as if Jesus was guiding me through every verse, shedding light on the deception that wrapped the world in confusion. I started to see the hidden agendas of the elite, their manipulation of faith to maintain control over the masses. The spiritual war one began to comprehend was not just a battle for my faith, but a much broader struggle against the forces of division and ignorance that seemed to permeate every aspect of society. Yet, the fear lingered. What if my exploration was futile? What if it led only to greater alienation? Despite these doubts, there was an undeniable urgency within me to seek answers. I found myself connecting with others who had ventured down similar paths, individuals who were also in search of truth beyond the confines of their inherited belief systems. In these clandestine meetings, we shared experiences and insights, revealing the personal battles we fought against fear and societal expectation. As I immersed myself deeper into this journey, I felt a growing conviction to speak out. The revelations I encountered urged me to challenge the narratives that kept so many prisoners of their circumstances. I recognized that the awakening within me could serve as a catalyst for transformation in others. However, I was acutely aware of the repercussions that might follow. The fear of rejection was still palpable, and yet I understood that the pursuit of truth, the calling to manifest the love of Jesus, was far more significant than any fear of ostracism I might face. I felt empowered to confront this reality head-on, ready to share what I had learned, even if it meant standing alone in the face of adversity. As I embarked on this clandestine journey, the quiet fear gnawed at me like a persistent shadow. I am Tariq, a Muslim attorney in New York, living a life defined by expectations and tradition. After my encounter with Jesus, I felt compelled to explore the depths of my faith and the revelations I had received. It started simply enough. I began reading the Bible, my hands trembling slightly as I turned each page. Each word seemed to resonate with the awakening I had experienced, illuminating paths I had never considered. I was amazed by how seamlessly the teachings echoed my struggles, affirming my newfound beliefs and challenging the doubts that had clouded my spirituality. As I delved deeper into the scriptures, I sought out testimonies from individuals who had experienced similar awakenings. Watching their stories unfold before me was powerful. Each story painted a vivid picture of transformation and liberation, resonating with my internal struggle. They spoke of their battles against the hidden agendas that often obscure the truth, of how the elite manipulate faith for their gain, fostering division among us. It was comforting to know I wasn't alone in my quest. Countless others were also wrestling with the same spiritual war, yearning to break free from the chains of deception. Yet even as newfound peace settled into my heart, the fear of losing everything familiar continued to haunt me. My family, my community, these were the bedrocks of my identity. The thought of being cast out as a heretic filled me with dread. I envisioned their faces, the disappointment, the anger. Would I ever have the courage to face that? I found myself caught in a constant tug of war between the light of truth and the darkness of fear. The safety of tradition whispered to me, promising comfort and belonging, while the call to follow Jesus urged me onward into the unknown. I recognized that this fear was rooted in a deeper longing for acceptance, but the truths I had discovered now demanded my attention. I often reflected on the spiritual war we faced, not only within our hearts, but also waged against our communities. The manipulation of narratives and the distraction created by societal systems kept us from awakening to our true potential. Every fear was a distraction, a tactic designed to keep us from realizing the strength of our collective voices. I began resolving to not let fear dictate my path any longer, even if it meant facing adversity head-on. With each passing day, I felt the weight of my decision pressing down on me. I sought quiet moments to pray, asking for guidance and strength to confront the challenges ahead. I envisioned gatherings of my community, where I could share the revelations I had received, encouraging others to embark on their journeys of awakening. It was daunting, yet I realized that the truth I had come to understand about deception, faith, and the manipulation surrounding us was worth every risk. I was ready to accept the struggle, to advocate for the changes that needed to happen, and to inspire others to challenge the boundaries of their beliefs. Over time, it became increasingly clear to me that my profound experience was not merely personal. It was a call to take action, an invitation to witness to the truths I had uncovered. I am Tariq, a Muslim attorney in New York, who once felt sure of my place in the world. That prior certainty was shattered the moment I encountered Jesus during my near-death experience. Although the earlier reluctance to share my story echoed in my mind, the power of that divinely illuminated moment urged me to speak out, to break the silence that had kept me bound. Every day, the weight of my revelations pressed on my shoulders, igniting a fire within me that demanded to be seen. The hidden agendas I had come to understand, the manipulations that served the elite while keeping the masses in fear, were truths I could no longer keep to myself. I began to recognize the broader implications of my encounter, understanding that my awakening was part of a larger spiritual war. In this battle against deception, I felt called to alert others, to share the insights that could liberate not just individuals, but entire communities from the chains of misunderstanding. The decision to share my experience was not without its dangers. I was acutely aware of the consequences of stepping outside the traditional expectations of my community. Each moment of hesitation brought a flood of doubts. What would my family say? Would I be ostracized for daring to challenge the beliefs that had been instilled in me from childhood? Despite the fear gnawing at my resolve, I felt increasingly compelled to act. The truth Jesus revealed to me was too significant to keep hidden, and the urge to shine a light in the darkness became my driving force. As I began to speak with others, those who had ventured their own paths of awakening, I discovered that I wasn't alone in questioning the narratives that had been handed down through generations. We shared stories of struggle against the tides of societal pressure and explored the underlying deceptions that had kept so many people ensnared. The conversations often turned toward the spiritual war we faced daily, the manipulation that divided us on every front, from religion and race to politics and culture. In these gatherings, I felt an electrifying energy as we united in our quest for truth. It became clear that the spiritual awakening within each of us could serve as a beacon for change, challenging the very foundations of the hidden agendas that sought to control us. The urgency of our mission became palpable. We were not just fighting for our own clarity, but for the liberation of countless souls still trapped in cycles of fear and deception. As I looked around at the faces of those who shared this journey with me, I knew that embracing this calling would shape our futures, and perhaps even the future of our communities. The spiritual war was real, and I was ready to step onto the front lines, armed with the truth that had set me free. In a powerful act of symbolic transformation, I made the profound decision to leave my home and change my name. I am now Ammar, a name that reflects my rebirth. This decision wasn't made lightly. It represented the shedding of my old life, the abandonment of everything I had once held dear. As a Muslim attorney, I had built a life within a framework of faith that now felt constricting, suffocating my spirit. The moment I encountered Jesus during my near-death experience, everything shifted. I realized that to embrace the freedom he offered, I had to step away from the confines of my former identity. The transition wasn't easy. With every step I took, I felt the weight of my past pressing against me, reminding me of the expectations I carried from my family and community. I struggled with feelings of guilt and loss, but I understood that my journey was essential not only for my own spiritual war, but for the sake of others who were still trapped in deception. I knew I had a mission to evangelize and share the truths I had uncovered. My heart raced with both fear and excitement as I contemplated my newfound purpose, spreading the message of awakening to those who longed for liberation from the chains of tradition. As a Mar, I began to plant the seeds of my mission among others who were receptive to the message of truth. I sought out friends and acquaintances, people feeling the stirrings of doubt, those who questioned the narratives imposed upon them. In our conversations, I shared my testimony. The revelations Jesus had bestowed upon me were just too significant to keep silent. I spoke of the hidden agendas that manipulated our communities, the ways in which the elite sought to divide and control us. Each time I recounted my story, I could see the spark of interest flicker in their eyes, igniting hope that perhaps they too could break free from their internal struggles. With each gathering, the atmosphere crackled with the tension of unspoken fears and hopes. We delved into discussions about the spiritual war that raged within each of us and around us. It became evident that we were all fighting against the same forces of division that sought to maintain their grip on our collective consciousness. My experience with Jesus had shown me how deeply intertwined our spiritual journeys were, and I felt compelled to inspire others to seek their own truths. The camaraderie we built became a source of strength, a reminder that we were not alone in this fight against societal deception. However, as I embraced this new identity and mission, the risks I faced grew clearer. I understood the potential backlash from my family and community, and with it came the haunting concern of being branded a traitor. I still held a flicker of hope that reconciliation with my past was possible, even if it seemed like a distant dream. Yet, I knew that the pursuit of truth often came with sacrifices. Still, I was determined to fight the good fight, to encourage others to awaken to the realities of their existence, and to challenge the narratives that had been woven into the very fabric of our lives. My awakening was just the beginning. I felt empowered to embrace the challenges that lay ahead, knowing that it was time to step into the light and help others find their way. As I embraced my newfound purpose, I could feel the weight of my journey pressing heavily on my shoulders. I am Tariq, a Muslim attorney who once occupied a comfortable space within my community. My faith had always guided me, but following my encounter with Jesus, everything shifted. The revelations I received transformed my understanding of truth, revealing the hidden agendas that often guide our lives. I realized then that my role was not just to practice law, but to advocate for the truth and help others awaken from their spiritual slumber. Each day brought new challenges as I navigated the complexities of my past while trying to forge a new path. The fear of being ostracized clung to me like a shadow. I often had to remind myself why I had made this choice, why I felt compelled to share the truths that had illuminated my way. I began speaking publicly about the spiritual war we face, one that many are oblivious to. I found myself in discussions about how the elite manipulate our beliefs, creating divisions based on fear and misunderstanding. With every conversation, I felt stronger and more capable of instigating change. As my influence grew, so did the responses from my community. Some were intrigued, curious about the awakening I spoke of, while others met me with resistance and scorn. Yet, amid the opposition, I discovered brothers and sisters who shared the same frustrations I had felt. We gathered in secret to support one another, each fueled by the desire to confront the deceptions surrounding us. I learned that I was not isolated in this battle. It was a collective struggle for truth within a society steeped in confusion and uncertainty. In our meetings, we shared our stories of pain and awakening, discussing how the spiritual messages we had received transcended our differences. Each testimony added fuel to the fire of our mission. We discussed the alarming ways the elite manipulate technology and information to maintain control, creating a narrative that benefits only a select few while suppressing the voices of the many. I felt a sense of urgency to bring these discussions into the light, to help others see what lay beneath the surface, a desperate need for change and understanding. Guided by the light of Jesus, I committed myself to this ongoing mission, ready to face whatever challenges awaited me. Every shared revelation became a stepping stone toward a greater awakening. I could feel the spiritual war intensifying, but with each challenge my conviction strengthened. I understood that this was just the beginning of a journey, both for myself and for those I sought to inspire. I was determined to keep spreading the truth, to shake the foundations of deception, and to help others find their own paths toward awakening in a world that so desperately needs it. Years later, I found myself living out my mission with a sense of unwavering dedication, fueled by the revelations I had received. My name is Tariq, and I am no longer just an attorney. I have transformed into a messenger of truth, advocating for those who have been silenced by the deception that permeates our society. Each day, I work in the vibrant heart of New York, inspiring countless individuals who, like me, are searching for answers in a world shrouded in confusion. My journey has forged connections and dialogues that illuminate the hidden agendas of the elite, who manipulate our understanding of spirituality for their gain. As I reflect on my past, I remember the feelings of isolation and fear I experienced after my encounter with Jesus. The moments of doubt and guilt lingered long after I tried to share my transformation with my community. It was not easy to face the consequences of stepping away from the faith I had known. Those I loved turned away, branding me as a heretic. Yet, amid the pain, I felt an unshakable hope for reconciliation. I envisioned my family and me rebuilding the bonds that were torn apart, even as I recognized the hurdles still in my path. With each testimony I shared, I witnessed sparks of awakening in those around me. My story resonated with many who felt trapped in a cycle of tradition and expectation. They listened intently as I spoke of the spiritual war we are all engaged in, a battle against the narratives crafted to keep us divided. I had learned that the manipulation of fear and misunderstanding was a tactic employed by those in power to sow discord among us. In sharing these insights, I felt a growing responsibility to challenge the status quo and encourage others to question the narratives ingrained in their minds. As I delved deeper into my mission, I encountered indispensable allies on this journey. Together we formed a community that sought not only to uncover the truth, but to actively work against the forces of deception that sought to control us. We met regularly, sharing our struggles and insights, united in our quest for spiritual awakening. I was inspired by their courage, realizing that our collective efforts could create the ripple effect needed to challenge the manipulative structures around us. Each gathering felt charged with potential, igniting an urgent desire to spread this message further. Yet, with each step forward, I remained aware of the challenges ahead. The fear of rejection still loomed large, and as I spoke out, I sensed the weight of my past pressing against me. Would my family ever understand the path I had chosen? Would my community accept this new version of myself? Despite these fears, I felt the call of truth resonate louder than the whispers of doubt. I knew that the light of Jesus had illuminated the way, and as I continued to share my story, I became more resolved to fight against the hidden agendas that sought to inhibit our awakening. The journey was ongoing, and I felt a profound urgency to carry this light into the darkness that threatened to consume us all. As I stand here now, reflecting on my journey from Tariq to Ammar, I realize that this is not merely my story, it's a call to action. Each of us feels the weight of a world veiled in deception, where shadows loom large over the truths yearning to be discovered. I encountered Jesus in my darkest hour, and what I heard was more than a revelation. It was a promise of hope that pierces through fear and confusion. This awakening is not isolated. It beckons for others to join in the quest for clarity, purpose, and spiritual truth. So I ask you, have you felt that tension tugging at your heart? A whisper urging you to dig deeper, to confront the comfort of complacency. In these tumultuous times, where fear tries to keep us isolated, we must unite our voices and seek the light together. Let me hear your thoughts. Have you experienced moments where you felt the unsettling truth beneath your own beliefs? Share your testimonies in the comments. Your journey matters, and together we can illuminate this path for others. If this message resonates with you, don't leave without subscribing to Truth from Beyond. By hitting that notification bell, you'll ensure you don't miss the upcoming revelations that could spark transformation in your life and the lives of those around you. Each story we unravel brings us closer to understanding the divine purpose written in our hearts. Next, join me for the upcoming video where we dive into another powerful testimony of awakening, a story of transformation that highlights the perils of silence in the face of spiritual warfare. I'm excited for you to witness the profound impact it will have on your perspective. Thank you for journeying with me today. I'm Ammar, and remember this: truth is an awakening, one that requires brave hearts willing to shine a light in the darkness. Together, let's change the world.